We are now on question 2 of test FPT 7. This is the math test, the newest one that has been released for students to use. It is FPT 7, and this is the new practice test. Question number 2. One of the things that students are really concerned about, especially with math, is they're concerned about how much time it takes to solve a problem. So what I'm going to do with question number 2 is something just a little bit different. I am going to start a stopwatch, and we're going to see how long it takes for us to solve question number 2, because I want the students to have an idea of what happens when you take your time. Generally speaking, they're going to have 1.6 minutes to be able to answer each question. Some questions are going to take them a long time. Some questions are not going to take as long. So they're going to have to sort of bank their time, and the ones that take less time will give them more time to use for the longer ones. So I'm going to start my stopwatch right now. Then we'll go back to the question, and when we're finished, I'll come back to the stopwatch and see how much time it took. So what I'm looking at now is I'm looking at this question, number 2. It says, what is the sum of 5x squared plus 3x minus 7 and 12x plus 12? Here's a problem that a lot of students have. Instead of trying to work the problem, they try to guess. And they say, well, this starts with a 5x and this starts with a 12x, so one of these two 17s down here must be the correct answer. What they don't realize is that there is a formula for this, and there's a way to figure these things out. We have the word sum, and we have the word and. What that means is that we are adding. And they should know that already. They should be able to figure that out. Now here's the thing with this particular problem. All this is it's combining like terms. So we're going to find any term that has an x squared in it. Here's a term with an x squared. This one is an x. This is a regular number. This is an x, and this is a regular number. So there's only one term that's an x squared. Now I'm going to find the terms with a regular x, and here's a 3x, and here's a 12x. So those two have just an x. Now I'm going to find the ones that are plain numbers. I have a negative 7 and I have a positive 12. They need to understand that the sign that is written before the number goes with that number. So now all we have to do is combine our like terms. The 5x squared is on its own, so our answer is either going to be A or B, because that's the only one that has a 5x squared in it. So now we're going to continue. We have a positive 3x and a positive 12x. That's going to give us a 15x. So again, our answer could be either one of these. It could either be A or B, depending on what happens next, because the first two terms here are exactly alike. Now what we have is we have a negative 7 and a positive 12. One of the things that students do not seem to understand, this is supposed to be a straight line, one of the things the students do not seem to understand about adding and subtracting these positives and negatives and everything is that this has to do with the amount of space between the numbers. So I need to know how many spaces are on the number line between a negative 7 and a positive 12 is basically what it is that I'm trying to figure out, okay? And that's what's going to give me the answer here. But the other thing that I'm looking at is the fact that I have to keep the sign of the larger, okay? So we're dealing with a positive here. Both of these are positives. So if I have a positive 12 and I have a negative 7, Basically what I'm doing is I'm taking 12 and subtracting 7 from it, which is going to give me a 5. I'm not adding those things because they have different signs. So our answer is going to have to be A, because it is the only one that fits when we add all of these together. So the answer is 5x squared plus 15x plus 5. Now my explanation that I just went through took 4 minutes and 6 seconds. That's a long time to work on a problem, but what I did with this was I gave a full explanation of everything that we were doing. And I'm going to do this throughout the videos because I want you to see how quickly you can work some of these, and I want to show you what happens when you slow yourself down also, okay? So that particular problem took a little bit longer time than what I was hoping for, but it was a question that I was able to get correct. And I want you to remember, and I want your students to remember, there are 55 questions in the math portion of this test. Your students need to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 22 to about 24 correct to be able to pass this test. Okay, so they need to kind of think of that as they're working on things. Okay, now one of the other things that students are concerned about is the calculator, and the calculator is both a blessing and a curse when it comes to doing this math test, because the students want to be able to do absolutely everything on the calculator, and the problem is they just can't do it all on the calculator. So we have to teach them the things that they can do and the things that they can't do. The next problem is a good example of something that can be done on the calculator. And the reason I say that is because the easiest way to find the answer to the next problem is to do some quick calculations and figure some things out, okay? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to reset my timer and I'm going to read the question. It says Asia has $100 saved from her job. One of the things that I want students to do is I want them to not erase. I want them to be able to circle the numbers that are inside a word problem. Now, if they can't circle them because they can't write on the test, they can at least write it down on scratch paper. So she has $100 saved. So I'm going to write 100 saved from her job, okay? She wants to buy as many charms for her bracelet at $4 each. So $4 is the charm, and as many earrings at $5 per set, $5 for the earrings, okay, as she can without spending all of her money. The inequality represents her spending, where X is the number of charms and Y is the number of sets of earrings. So here's our inequality that we're looking for right there. And what they need to understand is the signs for the inequalities, okay? Alligator mouth always opens to the bigger number because the alligator wants to eat the bigger number. So in this case, 100 is going to be the big number. So whatever we have on the left-hand side has got to be less than 100. The way these are written right here represent the X and the Y. So the first number in any one of these sets of parentheses is your X value. The second number is your Y value. And I'm going to show you how to do this very, very quickly. Okay? You're going to need a calculator. You're going to need scratch paper. We're going to take the 4 and we're going to multiply it by 16. And our answer that we're going to get is 64. So I am going to write down 64 right here because that would be my X value. Now I'm going to take the 8 and multiply it by 5 because that is my Y value. And look, 64 plus 40 is over 100. That means that A is not my answer. So now I'm going to go to B, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take 15 and I'm going to multiply it by 4, and that gives me 60. So I'm going to write 60 down as my x term. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the y. I'm going to take 8 and multiply it by 5, and it gives me 40. 60 plus 40 is 100 exactly, so this is not going to be my answer because I don't want 100 exactly. I want less than 100. So now 9 times 4 gives me 36 for my first number, and 13 times 5 gives me 65 for my second number. If I take 65 and I add it to 36, I'm going to get 110, okay? And that, oh, I'm sorry, 101 because I can't add, and that is not going to be the answer either. So we just keep on rocking. Now we're going to take the 6, multiply it by the 4, and get 24. And then we're going to take the 5 and multiply it by 15 and get 75. If we add 75 to 24, we get 99, which is less than 100, okay? So if she does this, she'll still have some money left over. So our answer, I can stop right there because I've got the answer. It's D. Now if I want to continue just to check and make sure that I did this correctly, 4 times 5 gives me 20. And if I want to add that 20 to 5 times 16, I get 400. Did I do that correctly? 20, I don't think I did that one correctly. Hold on one second. 16 times 5, yeah, I didn't do it correctly. Okay, so it gives us 100. Anyway, the answer is going to be D, 24. Now, I spent almost 5 minutes on that problem. So, what I know so far is that I've probably spent 15 minutes on these 3 problems, maybe a little bit longer, but I'm taking you through everything step by step by step. And the students are not going to take as long working these problems if they can figure out exactly what they're doing and if they have learned these different skills along the way. So this is questions number 2 and 3 on FPT 7, the practice test that has been released for the students to be able to look at. And this will be on YouTube, which is probably where you're looking at it right now.